Well, hello and welcome everyone to our Transformational and Psychedelic Integration Coach Training Program Overview. My name is Susan Renee. I am our Manager of Client Relations. I'm also our instructor and coach here at Being True to You. I am joined today with Deanne Adamson, our CEO and founder of Being True to You. Deanne, over to you to say hello.
Yay. Thank you, Susan. I'm so excited to be here with you and with everyone to talk about the coach training and how a training that I created 10 years ago is now helping professionals and students from all over the place to build a career in integration coaching or whatever careers they have, and how this kind of work is the exact kind of work that people are needing. Everybody is searching high and low for healing and for the answers and solutions to their suffering. But what we have found is that largely this is an process of personal work, and that is what the coach training and what our integration coaching program follows. So very excited to be here today with you, Susan, and to speak to everybody about our magnificent coach training. Back to you, Susan.
Thank you, Deanne. And we are so excited to talk to you all about our premier coach training program here at Being True to You. And I'm really excited for all of you to get to know Deanne and myself as well. So, we're going to cover today all things coach training, including an overview of the program, why this training is so important, and really who this program is best suited for. We'll also leave plenty of time at the end to answer all of your questions that you may have regarding our coach training program. To get us started, though, Deanne, could you give us just a quick background on Being True to You and how the Transformational and Psychedelic Integration Coach Training Program even came to be?
Yeah, I would love to. This is a question many people ask is like, where did you guys come from? Where did a training like this come from? Because we were the very first people to discover preparation and integration around psychedelic therapies, and one thing has just led to the next. So initially, I was a mental health counselor. I felt a little bit unfulfilled after all the work I had done to become a counselor, because I was really just diagnosing people and doing paperwork and setting things up for people to be medicated, and it didn't feel right or fulfilling for me. So I thought, okay, what else can I do? I ended up hearing about coaching. I started a coaching business, and shortly after, I learned about ibogaine. So ibogaine is the world's most powerful entheogen, at least some people think so. And I went down to Mexico, visited some of these clinics. I saw what was happening, and I saw miracles that were happening in one day, helping to bring people out of addiction, but there was no aftercare. So I started an aftercare program. I started then a preparation and integration program to sort of bookend these very powerful treatments, such as entheogenic therapies, and really just one thing grew from there. Over the last 14 years now, we've been providing preparation and integration for clinics of all kinds, lots of different kinds of psychedelic clinics and various treatment clinics and alternative holistic health clinics. And what we have found is that many of these treatments, programs, tools, and techniques are helpful when they are integrated. And so that is what we do now is we train and certify coaches and professionals, people across the whole spectrum, from people who are just learning to people who have dedicated their lives to helping others, to learn this model of integration and transformation to help people to turn within and start to identify, okay, what can I do to improve my own situation? So that's Being True to You. We're all online. We're all over the country. We have coaches in many different countries. We basically offer three main services, which is to train and certify people in our coaching programs. Then we provide coaching to clients, and we also provide services to retreats and different clinics and treatment programs as well. Thanks, Susan.
And thank you for that overview, Deanne. And I think it's so important for everyone here that we do share our mission and our vision for Being True to You. So, can you share that with us today, Deanne?
Yeah, I would love to. For Being True to You, our mission has been for quite some time to help over 1 million people to use the states of suffering, hardship, and the phenomenon of addiction as a launching pad for personal transformation and growth, and as a process of awakening. Rather than looking at these things as a pathology to treat and eradicate, we see them as an entry point to actually engaging the work. So our mission is to help over 1 million people to change their inner circumstances by learning how to do the integration, cultivation, and transformational work so that we together can help uplift these industries, whether it's the holistic wellness industry, the psychedelic therapy industry, the treatment industries, mental health across the board. I think these are the points that are missing that we can help fulfill. Our vision then is to create a nationwide infrastructure of integration coaches to support holistic healing, psychedelic therapies, and personal growth efforts and offerings so that we can become the new standard for the industry wide. Not just us, but like the things that we're teaching, I think are largely left out because we live in such a materialized, externalized world that people are always looking outside of themselves for the solution. And if we can help people to look within and even help these centers and the industry at large to stop selling these quick fix solutions to people and providing all these empty promises, instead to say, we have something that can help you, but we're also going to help you to do the work for yourself. So we want to raise the standards across the industry and multiple industries. And I'll just add too, to do this, we're going to need coaches. So if I looked it up once, there are 41 zip codes in the United States. I'm sorry, 41,000 zip codes in the United States. And so if we were to put 2 coaches in every zip code, that's 100,000 coaches. And that still is not very many. There's not a lot of integration coaches out there. We see this as the growing industry right now. And so to reach our goal, we need a lot of people to step in, and we need people from all demographics because we have clienteles and we have people suffering from all demographics. And so we can only reach them if we work together as a team.
Thanks for that, Deanne. And yeah, I always love hearing our mission and our vision, and I'm sure it is resonating with our attendees here today. And like you said, in order to reach that, we need highly skilled and well-trained coaches, which is why we have our coach training program. So thanks again for that overview, Deanne, and for everything you just shared. But we do always get a handful of questions that really pertain to folks who want to make a good decision in joining our training program. So I have a few questions if you could help us out with. And to kick us off, how about could you just start with giving a little overview of our coach training program for everyone in attendance today?
Yes. Okay. So coach training program is all online program. It is a transformational and integration coach training program. It has 3 parts to it. So each part is 10 levels. It's 30 levels total. It's going to happen over about 5.5 months. The first part that we're going to step into is the recovery guide. The recovery guide is where we learn how do we recover ourselves and help individuals recover themselves after some hard times. So this could be chronic states of addiction, depression, anxiety, insomnia, just falling back into the same pattern over and over, whether it's bankruptcy or relationship problems. And so when we go down that path and we start to lose ourselves, what is that process of recovering the true self and coming back into ourself? So we're going to look deeply at the phenomenon of addiction. But when we look at this phenomenon, we see that we're outsourcing our pain and our suffering and our healing to the material world. And we see that all states of suffering actually tie into this phenomenon of addiction, and it just shows up differently for different people. So in the recovery guide, we're going to explore this phenomenon and other states and phenomena that people actually experience. And then we're going to look at what is that transformational process? How do we help people to change what they're doing to get a better result? How do we support those integration efforts? And what are all the recovery pathways that are available to people? And how can family members also support? So there's a lot of information we cover just in the recovery guide. Part 2 is the coach's guide. This is where we're going to learn how to be a coach. What are coaching fundamentals? What are the basics of coaching? How do we support somebody in an ethical and moral and legal way, in an objective way? We're really helping them to think for themselves and to interpret their own experiences for themselves so that they can then understand the best course of action to move forward for themselves. We're going to look at coaching skills, coaching tools, coaching methods, a coaching framework. How do you take clients through the longer arc of transformation? Sometimes you're doing short-term coaching, sometimes you're working with them for many months and years. So we're going to do everything coaching in the second part. In part 3, that's going to be the specialist guide. This is where we get into more advanced states of coaching. So from a non-medical model, we're not going to be diagnosing people and providing psychotherapy and treatment plans to them, but we can look at the different states of suffering. And so we're going to teach a new nomenclature for how to understand the different personalities and the different mindsets and lifestyles of individuals, and how we need to work with them differently to help them elevate out of the place that they are in and get on the path of the true self. And then we'll explore different transformational tools. We'll list out dozens and dozens of tools, kind of everything out there on the market that people are using to include psychedelic therapies. And so this is when we're going to give a very comprehensive overview of what are psychedelic therapies, how are they being used in today's society, what is the purpose and the benefit of them, and then from a coaching perspective, how do we prepare people for this work? How do we help them integrate afterward? And ultimately, how do we tie all of that back in to the journey of the true self? So that's kind of an overview of the curriculum and the information that we'll be doing from a lecture perspective.
Thank you for that overview, Deanne. From our trainees' perspective, they always love how you weave together those 3 parts of the program and how well it really does set someone up to be a transformational and psychedelic integration coach as well. So, love the way you structured the training for us. And so, next question for you then, why would someone need or even really want to take the transformational and psychedelic coach training with us?
Yeah, it's a good question. When I first created the training, I was just creating it for my own counselors that I was hiring. I was hiring counselors that were working with me, and they said, we'd really appreciate if you could create a training. We don't exactly know what to do. And so I built it initially for a small group of people, and then it just kept growing and growing. And now we have people from every profession, and it seems like from every country, calling us for this training. And so what is it? What is it that people are wanting? I think people want to understand how can they leverage their current career or their developing career to help people to actually transform their states of suffering, to actually heal from trauma, to actually break through and not just be mitigating their circumstances or covering up their symptoms for some superficial form of happiness, but like, how do we actually break through? And so I think people want to develop their careers and they want to deepen their skills to be able to help people on a holistic and multidimensional way. We're not just looking at things from a mental perspective or emotional or physical perspective. Like, we're really looking at the whole being. I think that people that come to us, they want to be able to reach more people. They want to be able to go further in their practice. Also, just with like psychedelic therapies, I think psychedelic therapies have really tipped our mental world upside down. We've seen a lot of chronic conditions being healed in a week's time. A lot of trauma that people thought would never disappear is gone, through a couple of journeys. And so what we've realized, not just through psychedelic therapies, but anybody on the spiritual path who's deepening their human experience, is that the human experience is very profound and it's very deep and vast. And when we're so modernized and we live in this material world, we sort of get stuck in the superficial understanding of who we are and why we're here. And I think too, professionals are not just looking at, and clients are not just searching for, how do I reach this or that goal or overcome this or that problem. They really want to understand the existential anxiety that they're having, and they want answers to, who am I as a human being? Why am I here? What is my purpose? And so I feel like professionals and clients are just deepening their understanding and wanting a training that can speak to these things. Um, a training like this too is just going to enhance people's understanding of their own purpose, their own potential, and their unique positioning and place in all of this. So a lot of times people come to us and say, okay, I kind of know what I want to do. I want to get involved in this industry. I want to help, but I don't know exactly how I fit in, what my unique niche is. And that is something that the training will really support you on is, do I work better in groups or with individuals? Do I work better online or virtually? Do I want to work with men or women? Do I want to work with younger people or older people, married couples and families or single people? Do I want to work with these situations and conditions, or do I want to work with these states over here, right? And so this is something that is really helpful for the training. People want to learn advanced techniques, advanced skills. They want to have a better understanding of the ethics and the morals behind supporting someone. There's a lot of implications when you put yourself in the seat of a helping professional and you start taking money for that. There's all kinds of unethical things that are happening all around the country, and ultimately that can cost somebody their career, if not their freedom. And so these are important things. And then right now in today's society, it's also getting really challenging to help people because of all the division and controversial topics and just so many worldviews. I mean, everybody sees things differently. And so as a helping professional, as a coach, we want to understand, how do we help people who are different, who see things differently? Like, how do I open a practice that can serve all people, even though all these people have a different lens of looking at the world, so that we're not bringing them in a cookie cutter fashion and teaching them all exactly how to be. Instead, we're bringing clients in and we're saying, let's figure out who you are and what you believe in, what's important to you, and helping them be the best version of their self. And so it's all of these things. I think it's just like deepening the process of what we know already about how to help people, but how do we help people on a higher level and to greater depths to truly figure out who they are, their purpose in this life, so that they can fulfill their mission, and we can somehow figure out how, with more technology, more medicine, more professionals, all the problems are getting worse. Like, all the epidemics are just getting worse. Like, every time we put up more hospitals and more programs, it's like we have more people to fill them. And so something is missing. And I think our training is something that starts to speak to that gap.
Yes, beautifully said, Deanne. Thank you so much. I feel like you did such a great job highlighting so many of the benefits of our coach training program, and really why someone, would need or want this training. So thank you for covering that so in depth for us. So let's shift to a little more logistical question for you. So we get a lot of questions about like how the program and the classes are structured, and really what should trainees be expecting like each week as they're going through the program, and what all is included.
Yeah, to the logistical questions, these are important decision-making factors when you're picking out a training. So I can speak to some of these. First of all, I'll speak to the different features. So I talked about the three parts already. Those are the lectures that I teach, which is the Recovery Guide, Coach's Guide, and Specialist Guide. It's 32 lectures, classes. Each of those comes with a handout. So not only do you get a 2-hour audio of me talking, and eventually Dr. Dan Engel comes in at the end for the last part. And so we're going to share so much information with you. It's 800 pages total. And so you're going to get a handout for each of these lectures. And in these handouts, they're very packed full of information. So you can listen to it. You can actually read all the information. And then after every class, there'll be an open discussion with one of our instructors. And so that is what people really love, is because you can come in and you're like, mind is blown, because you're just like, oh my gosh, this is all this material that I've been thinking about in my own brain, that I've been wanting to process with someone. And now we have that forum. So you'll have the open discussions following the lectures. And then you'll have coursework for every single lecture as well. And the coursework is really fundamental to this process of integrating and applying this material in your own practice so that you can truly process what this means to you and integrate the material for yourself. So the lectures come with the recordings, the after discussions, the handouts, and the coursework. Then comes the experiential workshop. Now, the experiential workshops are what everyone has really come to love, because this is where you're going to take all the coaching information and we're going to bring it to life through our expert senior instructors that have been with us for many years. They've really honed the art of how to coach somebody in the most benevolent, objective, and efficient way. And so those experiential workshops happen every week. For both classes, you can join morning or afternoon sessions. So there's some flexibility in the scheduling there. And get practice opportunities and watch demos after demos after demos of like, what does it look like in a coaching session? Like, how do I handle these situations? And it gets real. It really does. I mean, it's rare that you're going to see one where there isn't tears and people that are just very moved and writing in with how much just watching the demos is changing their lives. We also have a mentor program, so everyone will be assigned a mentor that's going to just logistically help you get through the process. We have a coach's startup toolkit, so you're going to get tons of assets. You'll get coaching tools and business tools, basically everything you need to just start your business right away. And then you have the opportunity to do partner coaching as well. So you will get to work with a couple of different coaches and practice coaching. Now, the schedule of events is very flexible. So this is great. So if you're a parent, you have children, if you're working full time, it's okay. Most of the people that come through our program are busy people. And so it's going to run 5.5 months. The training will run 5.5 months. And we do have classes Monday through Thursday with an optional support group. I forgot to mention the support group. So on Friday, we have an optional support group where you're going to have more opportunities to watch demonstration coaching happening and also get the opportunity to just speak to what's coming up for you within the training. There's a lot of personal stuff that comes up for people. And so we have classes, Monday through Friday. You'll have morning and afternoon options to choose from, which is nice. And then we have the Friday group, which is optional if you want to join, but I highly recommend it. And then in terms of time commitment, the time commitment is approximately 10 hours a week to do the full program. If you miss a week, it's okay. You can just make up for it the next week, which is really nice. And you only have to get certified, attend half of the classes and half of the workshops. Most people attend all of them. I would say 90 to 95% of the classes. Like, people just don't want to miss them because they're so good. But if you're really busy and you can't make everyone, it's okay. You can still get your certification if you're showing up for half of the lectures and half of the workshops, and then you can make up the classes on your own time. And there's lots of additional opportunities through the course to keep learning. For instance, you can go to both workshops, morning and afternoon. Again, you can go to the Friday class and you can just take more time with your partners when you're practicing coaching and just going through the material. So that's a little bit of the logistics of the training, Susan. I think that
Thank
covers.
you thanks so much, Dan. You covered it so well. And one of the things I just want to highlight that I think you really mentioned there is there's a lot of flexibility, with our logistics, a lot of flexibility with classes, AM and PM, same with our workshops. And a lot of it is on your own time too, which makes it really just accessible for anyone out there who does want to go through the coach training. So thank you for that overview on some of the logistics. Now, one question, which I know we could probably dive really deep into, but if you could even just give us a high level on it. We often get the question, Deanne, of what is the difference between a therapist and a coach? And what are really the benefits of coaching? So if you could just shed a little light on that for us today.
Yeah, Yeah, it's a good question. A lot of people ask us, and a lot of non-counselors ask us. So the first thing I'll say, if you're not a counselor, you don't have to worry about this too much. The people that really need to differentiate this are the actual counselors and therapists, or former counselors and therapists, or social workers. Like if you're a licensed professional, that's where you really have to understand the difference. If you're not trained as a professional, you don't have to worry because you don't have the training to be a counselor. The only thing you'd have to worry about is what you tell clients. Like you certainly can't let the clients think you're doing therapy or coaching, that could get you in trouble. But the main difference is that counselors are going to work within the medical model. It's a very material world model that is fixed, and it uses professional assessments, diagnostic criteria, treatment plans, and psychotherapy to identify and treat mental illness in patients. So that is what counselors are doing. When you look at coaches, coaches are going to work within a freelance or entrepreneurial model, and they're going to use self-assessments, self-reflective exercises, and personal development assessments. They're going to look at your values, needs, and goals and use charts to track your performance and your productivity here. And they're going to use any number of self-improvement and self-growth charts and templates and tools that are not governed by the medical model. So when you look at like counseling and therapists versus coaching, you just know that like counselors and therapists is governed by the medical model, trained by the medical model, and all this, the professional assessments, all the diagnostic criteria, and all the psychotherapies being used come directly from the medical model. And then when you look at coaching, it doesn't do any of that. So you're not a medical professional, and you're not using any of those tools or diagnostic criteria. You're using tools that you make yourself from your own direct experience and your own learnings, or you're using tools that are not mandated to require licensure. So that's the difference. Of course, there is some overlap in terms of having clientele and talking to them and helping them, and that's okay. There's lots of professions that do that. Coaching is very unique, and the reason that we have become very fond of coaching, and I think the reason that more and more clients are turning to coaching, and even therapists themselves are getting certified as coaches, and a lot of the programs too are using coaching, is because you're not looking at the client through the lens of the medical model. You're looking at the client through their own eyes. You're really listening to the client. You're understanding what is their human experience and how can I help empower them to understand what it is that they're going through, like put a voice to the things that they're experiencing and they're feeling, and come to a place of such self-awareness and awareness of what's available to them that they can treat and heal these matters for themselves. So we're not telling them, you need something outside of you to treat you or to fix you. Actually, we're saying the answers are within yourself and within your reach. And so we're going to help you do that. And we're not really looking at people's labels or conditions or their diagnoses as chronic situations that they cannot overcome. Like we're looking at problems and obstacles as we're looking at problems as obstacles to overcome. We're not just looking at them as situations to treat and mitigate. So it's a big difference there. And then I'd say coaching centers around the client's values, strengths, interests, responsibilities, and opportunities. So again, we're not hyper focusing on a client's symptoms and their diagnosis and how to treat it. It's a little bit more fun and productive, and that we get to look at everything that a client's working with, everything that a client believes in, values, enjoys, and we get to like wrap all that up into a mission for them, something with purpose, something with meaning. And so the things that they're doing, they're choosing from their heart. They're putting together a schedule of events week by week that's going to help them do that interpersonal work. So, and also what I'd say about coaching is that it parallels the natural process of change. So if you look at any avenue out there, if you look at anything that people are doing to improve their situation, there are steps that people have to take for themselves. And that's what coaching is. It's the steps that no matter what tool, what medicine, what adventure you go on, like you are going to have to do these things anyway. So let's just cut right to those things and see what happens. And then I would say, integration coaching is even a little bit more specific, and that's what we teach here at Being True to You, is integration coaching or transformational coaching is helping people to recalibrate their compass for life altogether and bring it into alignment with the true self. And so we're not looking at, okay, what does the medical model tell us to align to? What baseline have they set for patients? We're actually looking at the client and we're saying, what does your true self say? What is your compass? And like, how can we recalibrate everything that you're putting out, your thoughts, your emotions, your behaviors, your character, so that it's in alignment with what is true for you, and helping clients to go within, do their own work, think for themselves, find and authenticate their own beliefs and their own faith, and ultimately like come to your own conclusions so that clients can identify, what are my life principles to cultivate? What is, most important to me? And it's like, this is where we're going to start to see the deeper spiritual transformations and the awakening process really take place, is when a person has to go through that journey and do the work for themselves.
Yeah, so beautifully said, Deanne. Thank you for highlighting those differences and taking us into really the specifics of integration coaching, and what we teach here in our coach training program. So, with all of that in mind, a next question we always get is, what is currently happening in the industry, and what is the future of coaching? Like, what does that look like for people right now?
Yeah, so another good question, and it's always changing, so I can just kind of speak to my understanding and what we see. I mean, the first thing we see, and anyone can look this up, the coaching industry is now estimated to be a $15 billion industry. And so that shows you that the coaching industry is getting a lot of traction. Usually we're only going to see these numbers when we get to like the medical model. And now we're seeing that these non-medical approaches to helping humans improve themselves is really getting a lot of interest. And so the other thing we're seeing is that coaching fits into every industry. And I think that's why we're seeing professionals come from everywhere. Like, I just never thought we would have professors and engineers and scientists, researchers, pharmacists, construction workers, police officers, special operations veterans. Like, we get so many people coming, and I think it's because coaching really does fit into every industry, which is great. Coaching is very fitting to the times. So I see that. I think people are getting more hungry to do the work. I think people are getting like more motivated. They've tried a lot of different approaches. You'll hear people say, I've tried everything. And mostly they just mean I've tried every pharmaceutical and maybe a few other things. But I think people are just understanding like nutrition plays a role, sleep plays a role, our character plays a role, our lifestyle plays a role. And so I think people are just getting more and more excited about getting involved in their own process. And so I think coaching is really fitting for the times for that, and many reasons. The There's programs going up everywhere right now, and there already is a lot, right? So you have all these addiction treatment clinics, you have teen treatment programs, you have mental health clinics. Now we have ketamine clinics, psychedelic clinics popping up. We have holistic clinics, peak performance clinics. We have nutrition programs. We just have so many different types of programs out there, brain treatment clinics. And what we're seeing is that the integration is missing. And so I think there has been so much time and money and effort poured into these clinics, a lot of genuine people trying to help, but without integration, the results are fleeting. And so what we're seeing is that if we add integration coaching to any kind of program, seriously, you can add it to like after school programs, you could add it to anything, just to support people in applying what they're learning and taking what they're receiving and like integrating it into their life and acting as that wing of accountability. And so more programs everywhere are looking for coaches to support them, and they don't have the capacity to do it because they're so focused on what they're doing on site, right? So they need more support off site. I also, as I already mentioned, I think coaching is filling the gap in the country where people are tired of just looking for a medicine to fix them. I think people want to understand, like, what's happening. Why is suicide rate so high? Why are addiction rates so high? Why is everybody depressed? Why is everybody anxious? Like, why are half of the country's people on pharmaceutical medications? Like, why? And so I think that people want to understand more of that, and what they need is meaning, purpose, to understand our own responsibilities in all of this, and accountability, community, connecting around all of the great things that that life has to offer us, and nature, right? And so I think coaching just provides like that missing need and gap in all of these converging industries. As I said earlier, we ourselves foresee needing 100,000 coaches, just to support this country. And that only puts 2 people in every zip code. And we have millions of people to help. And so we ourselves, want to train as many coaches as we can, as we sort of build out our um, team coast to coast, so that we can support bigger and bigger endeavors. And then I'll just say, uh, I said more and more programs are looking for coaching, but more individuals are looking for that accountability partner, somebody that's just human to be with them, not necessarily a professional to tell them what to do, or you have to wait, a week to get your appointment, but someone that they can text, that they can talk to, that they can meet with, somebody who's just more like them to help process and strategize, what they're going through. So lots of things going on in the industry. It's changing fast, but what I can say is it's just boosting the reputation, the interest in coaching, and the reputation. I mean, before people didn't really know what coaching is, but now people know. They're seeking out coaches, and it's just a really respectable thing. Sometimes people will kind of hide like that they're working with a therapist, but when it's a coach, it's like they want to tell everybody about their coach. So there's a bit on that. What
Yeah,
would you
thank
like?
Yeah, I think you covered it so well there, Deanne. It really is just a booming industry, and it's a great time to become a coach. And again, like you said, society needs it. If we even got, what was it, 100,000 coaches, that only puts 2 in every zip code. So we could use more than that, right? So it really is such a wonderful time to become a coach, and that's why we are just so excited to share, our coach training program with everyone, because we need highly skilled coaches out there. It is the time. So we have enough time to move into Q&A. I have one last question for you, Deanne, and then we'll share a few things and move into our Q&A. But I think what's a really good question to end with here is, when we think about our coach training program, tell us some reasons why people choose our Being True to You coach training program, and really why you feel this training is not only the best choice, but also just so significant right now in our modern society.
It's a question we have to think about, now with the emergence of AI technologies. They can sort of just go online, copy everybody's programs, and start selling them. And so we're going to start seeing this. And so we think about that, and a lot of things come to mind. I think that people find Being True to You because of our heart-centered, compassionate, warm nature. I think that's the thing that people always say is like, we just have so much love, so much benevolence, so much care and empathy for what's really going on. We have never been a company that's manifesting profits and trying to get ahead. We have always been a company that is really in the trenches, looking at how can we best support people? How can we best understand what's going on in this country and in other countries as well, to fulfill that need? And so people feel that genuineness when they come into our community. They feel that sincerity. They feel that just radiance and love that is coming from everybody in the community. So that's the first thing that comes to mind. I think people are starting to understand the sovereignty in this work as well. A lot of things are getting controlled more and more. If they're not controlled by the government, they're controlled by these medical monopolies. If they're not controlled there, they're controlled by like elite money. If they're not controlled there, they're actually policed by people in society saying like what we can do and can't do. And we just offer a very open, sovereign forum where everybody is welcome and all belief systems are welcome. We don't try to change people's mind. We're not trying to make everybody be the same. In our community, we practice objectivity and neutrality and just being very impartial to the way that people process information in the human experience. So that way people can really be themselves. They don't have to worry that they're going to be judged because I believe this or I believe that or I'm going against the grain. And so I think people see that, feel that, are attracted to that, and just really value those freedoms and that neutrality that we offer. And just with that, as I said earlier, understanding how do we support all people? There are tons of programs out there right now that you have to fit into their mold to really get along and to be able to use their services. I mean, they have a worldview, they have a way of being, and you come in and you sort of have to assume the position. And that is not the case with Being True to You. We have people of all worldviews, all religions, from all different, backgrounds. And it's so cool that we get together and we get to cherish each other's differences. So I think that's great. Another thing is we're very focused on the internal work and the character formation. So we're not trying to sell anybody a solution or cure or quick fix. Like we're really focused on how do we take responsibility for our own suffering, our own hardships, and how do we work to elevate our own state of mind and being. And so that is really precious. And I don't see that in a lot of the other companies as well. I think people are still trying to bring in the healing arts and all these tools to do the work for people. And in our community, we all do the work for ourselves. We're always showing up. We're always cultivating between each other, and we're always helping each other to do the same. And so with that, we're getting results. People are getting the benefits. They're seeing the lasting changes that are happening on a really deep level. So there's lots of things I could share in there. Some of it I've already spoke to. I think too, just having a foundation that's very grounded, balanced, ethical, moral, legal. We're not taking shortcuts here. I think people start to see that, oh, everybody's doing it, so I'm just going to start doing it. But there are laws and there are ethics and there are morals. And if we don't abide by these things and understand this when we're bringing a new industry into our society, it will backfire and we can actually hurt and harm people and send them out the door worse than when they came in. And these things are happening. So I think people really like Being True to You because we're having that discussion and we're making sure that we're putting the well-being of our clients first. And that means looking at a lot of different points so that we're not actively getting involved in like trying to influence the way that people think, the way that people act, the way that they behave. So, that's some of the stuff I can share about what makes us different and why I see people coming to Being True to You over other programs.
Thank you so much, Deanne. And I feel like you just gave us a lot there and kind of wrapping up some additional points, which is so great. But before we move to Q&A and share some other things with everyone here with us today, is there any final thoughts you wanted to share? Any key points you feel we didn't cover today that you just want our attendees to know about our coach training program or about Being True to You?
I'll just share one thought, and then Susan, I'd like to throw the same question at you and see if there's anything you'd like to add. The one thing I would say is sometimes people say, who am I to coach others? How do I know if I can help someone? And I just want to say there are millions and millions of people struggling in this culture. I remember one time I was supporting a teenager who was struggling, and I asked her, I said, how many people do you think in this country are going through the same thing you're going through? And I was surprised because she said, millions. And I was like, yeah, like I think even these teenagers understand that. And so I just want to say, if you're listening in to this, you are needed because there is a demographic of people for everybody out there, that demographic of people that's waiting for you to get your certification, to develop your practice, and to get out there and start coaching. That's what is so unique about coaching, is that it's humans helping humans. And if you have a story, if you've gone through suffering, if you've gone through hardships and you've made it through to the other side, or you are dedicated and committed to making it through to the other side, then you will do great as a coach because you can relate to these people. And that's what people want. What we've noticed in our 14 years is that less than 1% of people, when they call in to see who we are and what we're doing, ask about our credentials. Less than 1%. That means 99% of people want a human, a real human being on the other side who has suffered, who has cried, who has been through the trenches of life and can just be there for them. So that's what I would say, is that if you're listening in and you're having those questions of like, who am I to be a coach? And I don't know if I can, you can. And not only can you do it, there are people waiting for you to come and to help them.
Yeah, I would absolutely echo that, Deanne. And, as an instructor of the course, so many people during the program really start to understand where they can be of service, knowing and learning who are the people they can serve and who are the people that need their help. And I feel our coach training does such a good job of helping people build the confidence, the experience, the credentialing, to really work with and just normalize the human experience for folks, and really support others' journeys with just so much more compassion and just the utmost care, as they guide people through their transformational journey and their integration. So, yeah, so great. So I feel like we covered so much here, Deanne, and thank you all for sticking with us. We really appreciate you being here and listening in on our transformational and psychedelic integration coach training program.